listening to the LOZ Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the LOZ Podcast Network. My name is Ken Lawler. I'm the developer of the LOZ app. And today we are going to do another edition of Coves and Keys. That's where we talk to real estate professionals around the lake about everything from their take on the market to them growing up at the lake or what they see going on with real estate around our beautiful, beautiful Lake of the Ozarks. And today we're talking to Susan Ebling. And Susan is a longtime friend of mine. Hello, Susan. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, this is so fun. I wanted to have you on here because, Susan and I go way back. We actually share some college days together, too. So, I wanted to get Susan on because she was one of the first realtors that really got involved with the LOZ app when we first started out in the real estate side. And she's been with us ever since. And, it's really encouraging. And I love having people who understand the lake. And I really feel like you are a true lake expert because you grew up here, right? I mean, this is where you've grown up your whole life. Can you tell us about what it was like to grow up at Lake of the Ozarks?
In a word, it was awesome. And I'm sure if you ask, 50 kids that I grew up with, you might get 50 different answers. But to me, I thought it was incredible. It was all I knew, first of all. We didn't have a lot at the lake at the time, in the 70s when I was growing up here. Oh, there's a picture of my husband and I in high school. I had like 12 kids in my class from kindergarten through 6th grade at Osage Beach Elementary. And those 12, maybe people came and went, maybe 15 at max. Sometimes there's my dad back in the day in the 70s.
He's sporting that 70s mustache.
Oh, let me tell you.
You got to love that.
Mustache of everyone's dreams. He was a cool dude. I will say that. Very charismatic. But, growing up at the lake back in the 70s, if you were here, it's because your family probably owned a business here. That was really it. There was no hospital. There was no any kind of industry of any kind. It was the Wild West is what it was. It was the Wild West. My grandfather actually built the first waterfront resort in Osage Beach called Calfran Lodge. And that's where my mother and my aunts and uncles grew up. So they were really here in the Wild West. I mean, gravel road. They drove from Calfran and Osage Beach all the way to school at the Osage. My mom drove when she was 14. Didn't have to be 16. Nobody cared, totally different world. There's my mom when we were building the poop deck, that photo. So my mother grew up here as well. She left, went to college, went to Mizzou. Swore to God she was never coming back to Lake of the Ozarks because it was just nothing. There was nothing here. And she became a teacher and got a job in Kansas City. And her mother still lived here, had sold the resort. And my grandmother was a 4th grade teacher at school at the Osage for about almost 50 years. So a bunch of the people that lived here had my grandmother for 4th grade.
That's
so
amazing.
We've been around a while. My father grew up in St. Louis, but every summer he was a camp counselor at a camp on W, which at the time was a Jewish camp. I don't believe it is anymore. I think now it's just a church camp. But he was the only non-Jewish counselor or person at the camp. Absolutely loved it. Worked there every summer. That's a cool photo of my best friend and I at one of our employee parties at the end of the summer. She's in purple. I'm in maroon. We're about 14 in that photo.
You got to love the paneling. I mean, that is straight out of the 70s,
that was from
isn't it?
Tantera, my friend, in the 70s.
That's awesome.
Actually, this was probably about 1982 or 3. And this was at Tantera. In one of their ballrooms. There was my dad in the background with Kim and I.
And Tantera was like that was the place, right? I mean, back in, that in the lodge, I mean, that was pretty much all there was.
That was it. And that was why we had our employee parties there. There was no place else to have a big party.
And you're exactly right. I mean, to live there at the lake during that time, I mean, there were times in the winter you had to look for groceries. I mean, nothing was open.
Everything closed, including the grocery store. The only grocery store we had, which was Ezzard's, they closed in the wintertime. And then we had one gas station, which was owned by my friends, of course, because you knew everybody that owned everything. There was only, this many people here.
Right.
The people that owned the gas station, the Hoffmans, they stayed open year round, but they had very limited hours. So you had to go get your gas like before noon in the winter. Believe it or not, Eldon was the booming town when I was a little kid. And so we would go to Eldon to go school shopping. We'd go to Eldon for our groceries because everything at the lake was closed.
That's amazing. And you look at it today and Eldon's still there and is still thriving, but not quite the behemoth of the lake like it was back when you were.
Exactly. It kind of flip-flopped. It's a little weird, but the neat thing was we did all own business. Our parents all owned businesses. So guess what? Free slave labor. We all worked for our parents. And, you know, some of my friends owned marinas. We owned a restaurant. Jeff Krantz, my broker here at Remax, he and I grew up, went to school together, kindergarten to 6th grade. We had the restaurant directly across the shore from us, which is where like Dog Days is now, and
Yeah, the new development going in, all the
the Hamptons. That's where Point Breeze Resort was, and that was Jeff's family's resort. And so we would take our little metal fishing boat with the outboard on the back, and we would zoom over from the Clown to Point Breeze, so my parents could go over to Point Breeze and drink at night with Jeff's parents, and we kids would run wild, which basically meant we were in the arcade at Point Breeze playing pinball until it got real dark, like midnight. And then we played tag under the docks, which is real
right.
safe, with the styrofoam and everything. You play nighttime tag underwater under the docks. And, God forbid somebody drown because nobody's paying attention. Parents don't care. There's no water patrol or whatever. But
no cell phone to call anybody.
That's growing up at the lake was really cool because I had a whole set of friends during the school year. And then my whole second set of friends all arrived in the summer. All my city friends came in the summer. So I couldn't wait for Memorial Day to get here because I had a whole group of friends that were getting ready to come for the summer that I only got to see 3 months a year. They're still all my friends to this day.
Well, and it didn't hurt that your family owned one of the most iconic water playgrounds, I'll say, bar in the whole lake, the Topsider and the Clown. I mean, I'm sure you had no shortage of people who wanted to hang out because that was the place to be.
Well, correct. And the way it evolved is we bought the Clown in 1974. My mother had no intention. There's the Clown. My mother had no intention of moving back to Lake of the Ozarks ever in her life. She was done. She didn't want to come back here. My dad thought it was the best place on earth, and his dream was to live here. My dad was the head of the poultry division for Ralston Purina at that time in the early 70s. And my mom was a housewife. She had retired from teaching to have me. And then my sister was born in June of 74. My dad found out the Clown was for sale, which was the only business on the water at the time, and called my grandmother, my mom's mom, who lived here and was the 4th grade teacher, and said, found out the Clown's for sale and I want to buy it and I don't have any money and I need you to help me. And she said, you need to speak to your wife because she is not going to want to do this. I can guarantee you that. And my dad kind of instigated and arranged the entire thing behind my mom's back. And here's a cute little side note story I'll tell you that will be in my book. I'm working on a book about growing up at Lake of the Ozarks. But
that's awesome.
Here's a great story. So Robert T. McIntosh is the person who built the Clown in 1960 on a leased piece of waterfront at Sun and Fun Resort, which is exactly where Dog Days is now. So right across from the Clown, right across from Topsider is where the Clown originally was. He built the dock, attached it to a piece of leased ground he leased from Sun and Fun. In 1969-ish, I think it was, I might be misquoting that date, he ended up buying his own piece of property directly across from where he had been leasing and moving the Clown over to where it was when we bought it, which is where they're building Topsider condos now, right by the Grand Glaze Bridge. So he has this whole dock moved over to the piece of ground that he had just bought. It was going to stay there because he owned it. That's where we would go when I was a real little kid, and my parents would go. My dad found out it was for sale. He went to Robert T. and said, I hear, you want to sell the Clown. And Robert T. said, well, I do, but it's got to be a special person. And Robert T. was a real unique character, like everybody at the lake in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. Very unique characters here. He knew my dad wanted to buy it. Another gentleman named Frank Batchelier also wanted to buy it. Frank Batchelier is no longer with us. Neither is my father, but Frank Batchelier built the barge. A lot of people know the barge.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad and Frank, two young bucks around, 30 years old, both want to buy the Clown. And Robert T. tells them both the same thing. You both have to work for me for free for an entire summer. And then I will choose which one of you gets the opportunity to buy the Clown. And of course, My dad goes and tells my mother, not only am I trying to buy the Clown and move back to Lake of the Ozarks, but I'm going to quit my corporate job. You're going to stay in St. Louis with our 3-year-old and our baby, and I'm going to work a whole summer for free. And then maybe I'll get to buy something with money that I don't have. And my mom went, this is insane. I don't want to do this. This sounds crazy. And like everything else in our lives, my dad did it anyway.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
he was chosen.
Oh, that's good. So it all worked out.
And Frank wasn't chosen. So guess what he did? He went and built the clown and called it the barge and put it on, the 4-mile marker.
The 4-mile marker, yeah.
So we had 2 then. But that's how the clown went. And before I knew it, before that summer was even over, we were actually already selling our house and moving down to the lake, which I thought was amazing because I was 4 at the time and loved the lake because we came and visited my grandma all the time. And I loved the clown. And when I found out we were buying the clown, I was like, yes, amazing. I get to eat hamburgers and have soda every day. I have just won the lottery,
That's a kid's dream.
I thought it was incredible.
Well, I'll tell you what, you are one of the true lake historians, the living historian. I mean, you have lived it, you've seen it, you know all the characters, and that's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see your book when it comes out. That's going to be great.
I'm in the process of gathering stories. There are a lot of them. And a lot of people to tell me, I was at happy hour not too long ago at Hooks, and in comes Dave Leathers, and we're just chatting. I've known him forever, and met him when he was a young kid in college selling ads at the lake. He told me an amazing story I had no idea about because I was a little kid, about the first time he ever knocked on our door and how he was greeted by my dad in his underwear and what my dad said to him and how things transpired. That's going to be in the book. So
That's awesome.
I'm getting stories that I don't even know about, which is super cool for me because, the ones I know about are pretty interesting, but the ones I don't know about are equally as interesting. I'm finding.
Those are probably the better ones that you don't even know about yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, besides being a local historian, besides knowing everything that's going on at the lake and being involved with business and just the, truly the background of what goes on at Lake of the Ozarks, and all the players, you decide you're going to be in real estate. You get into real estate, and you're now, one of the leading real estate realtors at the Lake of the Ozarks. Give us your take on the current market at the lake and kind of, what's different about the Lake of the Ozarks versus St. Louis, Kansas City, whatever. What's your take on the lake itself and what the market's doing right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, the lake is a different animal altogether than almost any other market. If you're going to compare the lake to any market, it should be a resort type of a market, like a Florida market or something like that, only because we have seasonal highs and lows, and to compare it to a St. Louis or a Kansas City really isn't fair. We have nobody transferring here. We have no industry here still. The largest employer at the lake is the hospital. Otherwise, the service industry is still the largest employer of the lake, no matter what section of the service industry you're in. You might be in real estate, or you might be in a restaurant, or you could be a home health care. I mean, there's only certain things you can do at the lake still to this day as a job or a career. And that makes the lake completely different. We have a lot of part-time people that live here. There's not a lot of full-time people still. There's many more than there used to be, but it is still a transient type of a market. And it is very, very different than the rest of the world. The lake sort of is immune to some things that happen in other markets, and sometimes we're not. Pretty much what everyone's saying is, with the election now over, people can settle down. They're not worried about that anymore. We're probably going to see rates click down just a little bit slowly over this year. Probably we're not going to see anything under 6% anymore. 6 is going to be what we strive for and probably our new normal. Luxury buyers are a different buyer as well. They always have money. It just depends on if they want to spend it or not.
Right.
And they often pay cash, but they're looking at other economic factors and other things affect their decisions on buying. It's not just rates. They don't necessarily care about the rates. It's other market factors. So what's interesting is, as soon as the election was over, and I mean like the day or two after the election, I was already busy. I got exponentially busier. Like all of a sudden, boom, 24 people were like, okay, well, yeah, we were thinking about selling our house and upgrading, but now we definitely are. And it was mostly luxury clients. What I expect to see this year is, and what's tracking for us numbers wise at Lake of the Ozarks, is we will probably see, we've had a decrease in number of transactions the last 2 years since COVID, which we expected. our volume keeps going up, which means your average price still keeps going up.
Right.
So nothing at the lake is going to get cheaper. If people are waiting for that, you're going to wait till the end of time. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
If you bought in 21, you've just made a ton of money. If you bought in 22, you've just made a ton of money. If you bought in 23, you still made a bunch of money. Even if you bought at the beginning of 24, you've seen appreciation as of today. So the best time to buy at the lake is now. The best time to sell is now, especially if you're looking to downgrade, upgrade, do something else. The lake market does fluctuate, but it fluctuates based on a whole bunch of weird things that don't pertain to other markets. Everything that we're being told about the market in general across the United States is it will be much better in 25 in general. And the lake market was pretty freaking good in 24. I got to say, my team, our numbers for 24 are ending where our numbers ended in 21, which was the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
So we've sold, I think we're ending around 125 or 150 million for my team this year. And so the business is there if you want to go get it. I think you need to understand whatever your niche is in the market, whether you're luxury or your first-time home buyers or you're just condos, understand that niche inside and out, and you will always stay busy.
But the days of buying a small cabin for $250 on the lakefront are over.
Yeah, they've been over.
Those days are over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most interesting thing, and I hear that a lot out there. I hear that, the numbers are up, the total volume is up, and a lot of it is your average sale is up. I mean, it used to be, okay, I sold 30 units at 300,000.
Right.
Now you're selling 20, but they're at 550.
Pre-COVID numbers, average sale price was around 300. Today, the average, and I'm talking lake-wide, all categories, just an average sale price. It was around 300 pre-COVID. Now it's right around 470.
That's amazing.
That's incredible.
Just amazing. It is.
Because that takes off water into account also.
Yeah.
And places way out like Laurie, Grabboy Mills, Eldon, all those off-water houses that are not expensive, now they're getting a lot more expensive.
It is. It's great. Well, let's talk about, let's get a little more specific on some listings and talk about some of your listings that you have right now. Let's go into a couple of these, and let's start with 415 Gardenia. Tell me about that property.
That is an awesome property. It really is one of the best deals on the market. It's a 6-bedroom house.
Holy cow.
With a heated lakefront pool. You can see in this photo. It also has a hot tub. It also has, to the right of the pool there, you can see a lakefront fire pit area, a 3-well dock with a dive and a swim platform, kind of everything you want at the lake. It's got a 3-car garage. It's got great parking. It can be rented nightly. It comes turnkey. There's not much anybody can say negative. The owners are the type of people you want to buy from, meaning they are very OCD. They have a house caretaker. So if there's a leaf on a deck, it's gone in like 24 hours. If there's a light bulb burnt out, it's changed.
And a spider be gone system, which if you've never lived at the lake, that is a must.
I had never seen one, Ken, and I've lived here my whole life. It is quite the production, I will say. It almost looks like a misting type of a system that goes around the whole gutter line of the house, and it mists this spider be gone stuff to keep all the bugs away. There's no bugs.
And
they have
I'll
no
tell
bugs.
You,
Their dogs, it's nothing.
The last 2 summers, for some reason at the lake, have been like spider crazy. I don't get it. And but no, that's a great system to have. Well, that's awesome. That's great. Let's talk about the next one, 1385 Arbor Court.
Okay, so this is in a neighborhood that's gated, that's right by the hospital. So a lot of doctors live in this neighborhood, especially ones that have to be on call because they're right there. This is an off-water home with a great view. I mean, look at it. It's a mansion. I mean, it's got the highest of high-end finishes. Huge home, 3 levels. Everything, again, the type of people you want to buy from. These people bought it as their forever home. They were going to retire here, had some illnesses, and had to move out and go live with their adult daughters. Had no intention of selling it, had no idea they were going to have health issues. Double lot, plenty of room for as many people as you want. Everything is, I mean, there's nothing that anybody should have to do. Everything's been repaired or replaced or updated or whatever you can imagine. The neighborhood is gated. They have a neighborhood pool. This house has a private fire pit. because it's a double lot. The picture we're staring at now, if you were to be standing there in person, to the left is kind of the extra lot. So if you wanted to put your own pool in, you could. Because they don't live there anymore and they don't want to pay for a house that they still own, the price is ridiculously low. The price
So if somebody sees this and are interested, they need to call you on this one.
Oh, I mean, this is a hot commodity. I mean, you've got a theater room, you've got 6 bedrooms, you've got a 3-car garage, you've got a bar downstairs. It really, for the price that they're asking, it's a no-brainer.
And on hot water demand, which I love. That means you turn your hot water on and it's there immediately.
Right there. You got to have that in a big house. You don't want to wait 10 minutes cold in the shower for your shower to get hot, you know?
Okay, let's go to the next one, 2243 Peninsula Court.
This is one of my newer listings. This is pretty awesome. These people bought it a couple years ago, had been on the lookout for a lake house for many years. They're from Iowa. Loved this neighborhood. This is off of KK. If you're familiar with the lake, this is one of the very few streets at the lake that has flat lots and deep water. Typically at the lake, your topography follows into the water. So if you have a flat lot, you have shallow water. If you have a steep lot, you have deep water. Well, this is the rare unicorn where you have a flat, incredible lot in the middle of Osage Beach in a cove with a main channel view.
Look at that
flat.
interior. Wow, that is such a cool layout.
So this one's cool because if we had the before and afters to see what it was when they bought it, it looked like a 1970 grandma's garage sale inside and outside.
I'm familiar with that.
They bought it thinking it was going to be, a project. They had no idea the project it became. They ended up having to literally replace studs. Every inch has been replaced of everything. It is now literally a brand new home. It's a pretty cool setup too. Besides, the lot is ginormous and there's room for a pool and you've got this great view and it's flat and you've got a circle driveway and a 2-car garage and all these amazing things you never get at the lake. The updates and the remodel they did is just, there's a bunch of glass and you see the lake and you can see it's semi-furnished. It's not fully decorated. It's sort of leading it up
so well
to
thought out though. Like the
very well thought out.
The screened-in porch below, because if you're going to sit out there at night, you need that, and then the cool view from the top, and just the architecture of it is just like Frank Lloyd Wright-ish. I mean, it's just such a neat.
It really is.
Thing.
It's super cool. There's 4 bedrooms on the lower level. There's the master suite plus 3 guests that share a bathroom and a laundry. And this, of course, big great room and the big kitchen with the island and the quartz countertops and all, the high-end cabinets and all of that's amazing. But then you go upstairs. The loft area used to be like an enclosed, like all these little closets with a wall, and it was really weird. They blew it out, opened it up, so it's a huge open loft now. There's a big bathroom up there. There's a second laundry room. There's a big storage room up there. You could make that into whatever you want. It could be a second living room. It could be a bunk room. It could be a combination of the two. It could be an office or an exercise room. It's a pretty huge space that they blew out and opened up and put on that deck, that upper deck.
That's
walks
so cool.
out off that loft, and it doesn't look that big in the photos. It's huge.
All right, we got to get off this one before I buy it. Let's go. I got to move to another one. I can't. This thing's just too cool.
It's amazing. I mean, it's like my favorite house right now. If you can't tell, it's like you can't. It's a unicorn. Like
it is. It's so
you
cool.
don't get this, and they actually have more money in it than what it's listed for.
Well, as a buyer, that's what you want.
Exactly. You've already got equity built in.
I love it. Let's talk about the last one, 768 Resplendor Way.
Yeah. So these are some good clients of mine. They bought this villa, kind of like you, Ken. They bought it in Portachima, and it looked like 1990, as most of them do. And so they hired Keith Patterson, Keith's Lake Light Designs. I got to give him a little plug because he does all of my personal stuff, plus all my clients. He's an amazing decorator and or stager, depending what you need him for. But they had Keith. They gave him the key. They left, went back to St. Louis and said, "You're in charge. Just redo the whole thing. However you feel like it should be done."
He took it from there, huh?
He took it from there. So from the lights to the floors to the furniture to the paint to the blinds to the bathrooms to you name it. It was all done by Keith. It shows like a dream, and it's a little unique because it's a 5-bedroom. Most of them are not. They took that back. Some of it's a storage room in some of the villas. Some of it is a non-conforming room, their 5th bedroom, but it is a bedroom. They had it as an exercise room for a while, but now it's a bedroom.
I'll tell you what too. And when you need a fifth bedroom, which you do from time to time because of just the group you have down, and maybe they have
Yeah,
extra kids, or maybe it's a kid's room or a bunk room, you throw them.
right.
That is a really big positive. I mean, you can really entertain with the 5 bedrooms.
Yeah. And they're in a cool spot. They're at the very end of a row of villas, so they're private here. It's right on the golf course, and they were golfers, so they loved the view of the course, but they did something pretty smart. They're also right in Evergreen Cove. If,
Yes.
people that are at the lake know Evergreen Cove. They had the HOA come out and trim up all the trees, which you can see a few of them here, all the way up past their roof line. So now they sit on they have 2 screened in porches and 2 open deck sections. You can sit anywhere on those decks and you have a stunning wide sweeping lake view in the back of that cove. It's
That
amazing
that's
the
a
view
great
that they
cove too.
got.
That cove is so cool, and probably why it gets some weekend traffic of people, families
Right,
mostly, that just like to hang out back there. It's not a
right.
real party scene, but it's just a fun atmosphere back there. That's so cool. All right, well, so those listings are all current listings. That someone could buy them today. We're correct. I mean, they're
Absolutely. Would love to sell them all today.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about you're a realtor at the lake. You've got all this stuff going on. You're writing a book. You're trying to have a career. You're trying to live a life. And then you got family and all that on top of it. So what's it like juggling all those different things?
Well, if you ask my family, you'll get a different answer than what I'm going to give you. There's my mom and dad with my daughter when she was a baby. She's turning 17 this week.
Oh my gosh.
She's my only daughter. I have 2 stepsons now as well. They bookend her. So she's 17. My youngest stepson is turning 16 this week, and my oldest turned 18 in May. So we have 1 in college, 2 in high school. But my daughter is the only grandchild of my parents, Dick and Kim Ebling. So she is the only carrier of the Ebling name here at Lake of the Ozarks, which is kind of a heavy burden, I think, in her mind at 17. A lot
Right.
of things to live up to between Nana, Papa, and Mom. I work 24/7. That's just the honest truth. If you're in sales, you have to answer your phone. I don't care what you're doing. There's my team. We do a lot of things together. We're pretty tight. That's our agents and staff. And some of the agents are gone now and they've been replaced by other agents. But we do have a large team. And I'm on the Krantz team, which is Jeff and Melissa Krantz. And
I see Phoebe in there. Phoebe's in
yeah,
there.
and Tracy and me and Jacob's there. And anyway, we love our team. We have a great team. We work well together. We have a great staff. We have an amazing staff. The staff is everything. If anybody has any kind of a company with a staff, the staff is the most important.
That's true.
And we have an amazing staff. And we're just very lucky to be in such a professional atmosphere at Remax Lake of the Ozarks with the leadership of Jeff and Jason as our broker owners, and Mel, she's in the game every day. She and I are side by side. Our offices are, to me, you'll get different answers. There's my husband and I. We got married on our patio. Our anniversary was September. Our first anniversary. He was my high school sweetheart. We
That's
stayed
amazing.
friends all through our lives, and then got back together and got married in September of 23. So that's us. And there's my daughter and my sister and I at the Encore.
And we need to do a podcast with your sister because I know she's got a whole nother set of stories from
She
the lake.
does. And she
she's
has most of our photos and most of our family heirlooms, frankly. And she's got her own,
yeah. I just
set
saw
of
her in
history.
Alley Cats last week. I stopped at Alley Cats and she was there. So
Yeah.
and actually your mom was there. I talked to them both while they were there.
That's who you
that
need
was
to
fun.
talk to. If you want the history of the lake, you talk to Kim Ebling.
Well, I just want to tell you, thank you so much for joining us. We are trying to provide in-depth stories for the lake. Like I want to get more in-depth with the history of the lake and what's going on at the lake. And I think the more we modernize, we kind of forget where this started. And it was just this little town that was open for 3 months a year.
Yes.
And, who started all that and who built all that out and who was the first ones that decided I could make a living here and I could live here. And you are one of them and your family's one of them. So
The crazy people, that's who. The
That's
crazy
right.
people.
And the stories are so good. But thank you so much for being on our edition of Coves and Keys. And anyone who wants to contact Susan, you can get her on her website, which is susanebling.com. You can contact her on her phone directly. I'm sure you, like every other realtor, you'll keep your phone on you. That's your bat phone, so you can contact you directly. And and we encourage you to go in the LOZ app. You can find her in there and all those things. So, but thank you, Susan, for joining us today. And we really, we're going to follow up with you again. I think when your book comes out, we'll have another iCast
Okay.
episode with you and we'll talk about the book and maybe we'll share some stories from there.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks for having me, Ken, so much. It's great to see you. I love the app. What an amazing thing you've done for the lake. I mean, wow. I
Oh,
can't
thank
say enough
you.
good things about it. Like, we needed that 100 years ago. Thank you for doing it. And thank you for doing all you're doing for the lake.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, well, we will see you soon. And everyone else, just join us on the next episode of the LOZ Podcast Network, and we'll share another story from Lake of the Ozarks.
Bye-bye.